Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Tuesday, May 16th. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes. Please read the full risk disclaimer here. Everything we're going through is for education purposes. Yes. So themes of the day. We will. There's a couple of them for the day, and some stocks to go over, which are showing some relative strengths. I would say both stocks and a couple sectors, but overall, we're back to the poor breath. Right. Yesterday was one of those kind of feels at this point like an outlier day in terms of, the breadth was strong, small caps participated. But as we know, and we say frequently in these end of day videos, is that one day is not a trend. And, the small caps just have not really been able to kind of put together anything meaningful more than one day on the upside. So I will go through that chart in just a second. Once again, we're seeing kind of that hiding place right now, Qs, mega cap tech or big tech, but there are a couple other areas that are showing strength. Again, you kind of have to look under the hood a little bit to see that it is some of those names just besides the top names. For example, the semiconductors, they continue to be strong. So let's dig into some of these charts, and then of course the last bullet point that I have under there for the themes of the day. Yes, the debt talks are going well. I'm being sarcastic here. We as a country are just kind of held hostage right now by our politicians, waiting to the last minute once again to get something done. So the longer they wait, most likely the more that volatility is going to increase, right? That's kind of just a logical statement. And I think that you'll probably agree with me. Here's what the CDS looks like. This is a chart that I've talked about a couple times. We went through this for the member video on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, there are things moving. Yes, the VIX is not moving too much. I continue to see people dumbfounded that because they don't understand what the VIX is. But things outside of the VIX are moving. The CDS for the country, it has been moving up, and is at a pretty dangerous level, right? And that's been going on now for a couple months. So we will see if they do make some type of a last second deal if this goes down. But yeah, I mean, here's the date, right? I mean, we're at the 16th of the month. Biden has a trip coming up. They said that he was going to shorten that trip. So yes, I'm inserting a little bit of political talk in here because sometimes that does affect the markets. It is a funny, the reason why I have this as being a joke, because a couple of years ago, we dealt with the same thing. Not only the debt talks, but trade talks, right? We kept on hearing that, they would meet, they wouldn't really get too much done, but we would hear that the trade talks are going well. So yes, it's a little bit of a joke if you were around there trading. So let's get into the stocks to watch. Yes, I mentioned the VIX, right, isn't moving that much. It's because the stocks are trading. Again, remember, I won't spend too much time here because I've discussed this plenty of times, but remember what the VIX measures, right? That will clear up if you're confused why the VIX isn't trading at 25, 30, 35. It's because it measures short-term implied volatility. And right now we continue to trade in a range, right? Of course, if we start to really see it crank up and get above 20, then that something is up, right? And you might start to see stocks move faster. But by looking at this, is we haven't moved anywhere, and it's been over a month since we moved. So why should the VIX be trading well over a 20? Right? Once it kind of decides a direction, if it decides a direction to the downside, yes, then you will see volatility move up. But we haven't moved anywhere, and it's been over a week, really, where it's been a super tight range. So that is what the VIX is generally telling, considering we're not moving over 1% that frequently, then the VIX should be under 20, right? That's, again, it measures short-term implied volatility, 30-day implied volatility, and just the S&P options. It doesn't look at what small caps are doing. It doesn't look at what CDS is doing, so on and so forth. But so yes, even though we're a little bit to the downside here, I did want to show you the 1 hour chart here, because oftentimes the 1 hour chart can kind of reveal what's going on under the hood, kind of reveal that pattern for you. But right now, 41.15 is the level to watch on the downside. Okay. And yes, we've been locked inside that value area now for the better part of a couple weeks. I did draw a new trend line in here, right? You can see this dotted blue trend line that I just drew towards the end of the day. What is that signaling? Just lower highs in the short term, right? So this is, again, 1 hour chart, super short term, but sometimes you could see a pattern reveal itself, right? We saw that a couple weeks ago too. Remember in here, I had started to draw this trend line and said, even though this isn't a perfect head and shoulders, I kind of drew this with a little bit of some type of a slanted trend line. And once we broke, we really kind of fell down for a few days. We did reclaim, get back into the middle of this. But, I could basically draw another trend line here. It's not going to be perfect, as long as it touches a couple points. But, if this breaks, then we can, maybe look to see, that level that I just mentioned, as well as a couple weeks ago, the low from that point. All right. If we can't get back inside the value area for the week. But again, this is not that significant of a value area. It's just based on last week's price action. But I would really be paying attention, as we're leaning lower. If we break that, then I would say watch the lows from back in here. All right, that's what we're dealing with. Again, different picture than the Qs. The Qs, you look at the daily chart, and again, even though we didn't close on the highs, the reason why I have the short-term moving averages on my charts is because it kind of tells me what that short-term trend is. And for now, we're holding the short-term trend where price is staying above the 5-period moving average. You could start to get worried here if we break, as long as I've been doing this, I try not to jump to too many conclusions. If you feel uneasy or if you are anticipating volatility, you can of course add a hedge, but really, in some of the things that you're in, you try to ride the trend as long as it's a trend. And right now we're staying above the 5-period moving average. We are getting close to some resistance, right? Been talking about this level for a couple weeks now, but 332.31 is where we're going to hit some resistance, and we'll see what happens once we get there, if we continue to stay above the 5-period moving average. Also, if you want to look at the 1 hour chart, again, it's a different look than what I showed you with the S&P. We're staying above this value area. Now we go from one end of the spectrum to the other, right? IWM, let's start with the daily chart, right? We talked about this towards the end of yesterday. Hey, maybe we might be making a move here. Maybe we might be getting into the value area for the month. Nope. And we closed basically on the lows of the session, and we just can't turn the corner. Again, similar to, I feel like a broken record because I've mentioned this a couple times, but we couldn't do it here at the top of value back in April, and now we're trying to get into the value area and we can't do it here. I also mentioned the 50-day moving average in yesterday's video, right? We're still below that. So I see some people, talking about speculating on going long IWM. I would rather wait until you've got some confirmation, right? I've been doing, like I said, been doing this a long time. I would rather wait until you have some confirmation on your charts. And I think a move inside the value area more concretely than what we saw yesterday, and a move back above the 50-day moving average would be at least to start. All right, so I mentioned we would talk about some areas that are showing strength. Well, of course, you can look at the XLK ETF. That's the tech ETF. It looks similar to the Qs, and you can go through the Qs. Google had a monster day today. Again, looking at the 1 hour chart can kind of help reveal these things. But remember, big week last week for Google, went sideways towards the end of the week, the beginning of this week, and had a nice move. Microsoft also had a chance to kind of do this, but wasn't able to do it for the day, with any major move. It did break out of its value area, made a new high, but just didn't have the push. That's definitely a name I would keep an eye on, right? Apple's another one too that is just kind of sitting. Apple's been better on support, in my opinion, to trade. So it's kind of, we can zoom in here a little bit. It's hanging around this 5-period moving average. You now have a decent amount of consolidation after earnings. So I think it's a must watch to see if it does start to kind of break back to the high side. For now, I would watch this 172.24 and then further 173.67, which would be confirmation that a next leg higher is coming for Apple. All right, so those are your big mega cap stocks. SMH, right, didn't close on the highs today. Actually closed flat for the session, but did is above these short-term moving averages, and you've got some resistance here. Names that I discussed yesterday, Lam Research, I did take another target in this, very close to taking my my final target at 566. I got a couple bucks away from it. I could have taken it, but I've already taken 3 targets with this swing trade. Also, Broadcom, right, which is the other one that I've mentioned, right? I did put this trade on today. I unfortunately did not get a target. It closed weak with the market, but I'll be in this as long as it stays above 634. Going down the line of some of the, a couple of the other ones, Rambus had a nice day today. This one saw a little bit of call buying at the end of the day. Again, sometimes the call buying, right? Again, I'm very objective about this stuff. I'm not one of these people who just touts option activity like it's the end all be all. They were buying calls like at the end of today's move, right? Some, in the afternoon, they started buying calls. So a lot of times you'll see calls that go up and it's the very end of the move. It's the most, because option activity is speculative. A lot of times it is used for momentum type plays. One name that we've seen, speaking of, repeat option activity, Yelp continues to see option activity. It did rally all the way up to its 200-day moving average, took out its VPOC. So for now, this has been a nice move from the lower VPOC to the upper one. Like now the heavy lifting has to happen. But, if you followed some of that option activity when it first occurred, you had a nice winner because the stock was up 3.5% today in a tough tape. All right. Breadth overall, I mentioned, we can go through a couple more names, outside of like the semis and big tech, right? What I find, particularly interesting is what's going on with the home builders, right? Pulte Homes made a new high today, right? This is, by the way, in the back of higher rates, right? This is not a good looking chart, right? This is the 30-year bond futures, right? They're looking like this to me looks like some sort of a head and shoulders, and it's clinging on to this neckline. If this breaks, right, and things like the home builders probably, might be under pressure, as well as the overall market. So watch this level. We could also look at TLT, which is a different different duration, different maturities, but this is also sitting below the 200-day moving average. So if rates start to really kind of move higher, then we've got some issues, right? And of course, you could look at TNX, which is the opposite of that too, but 10-year. All right, this is 10-year rates. All right, so yeah, there's definitely some things to watch. UUP, which had a big week last week, the US dollar was up another 0.25%. I mentioned the level to watch here, 25.22, right? DRI, sorry, I'm going back and forth with some of these names. I'm sorry, DHI is the other home builder that made a new high today. Right, there it is. So again, very impressive. And then the last area of the market that I'll talk about today is what's been going on with these cheaper specialty pharma names, the Cardinal Health, for example, right? So again, like another pocket of strength that nobody seems to really be talking about too much. But there's 3 companies that I watch in this space, and they're all breaking out. CAH. ABC is another one, AmerisourceBergen. These are really cheap names in this group. That's out to new highs today, right? McKesson is also another one, which I actually started a position in this one. I know I don't really want to be starting new trades right in this environment, swing trades, but I don't mind like putting on a starter position. But this one had a really nice earnings gap, kind of came in, rested a couple days, and move higher. So again, like it's another area that this market seems to really like is some of these cheap names. By the way, the home builders are also not an expensive group. I mentioned breadth. I was just going to show you just so that you could see what you're dealing with here for the S&P. See if I could just enlarge this a little bit for you. The S&P made 22 new 4-week lows. Sorry, 22%. So 111 4-week new lows. So again, look at what's on this list, right? Some names like energy names are in here. I see a beverage name in there. I see Verizon's in there. So a little bit of everything, I would say. I'm sure that I see a decent amount of energy names in here. And here's your 4-week new highs. Again, right now you're looking at, less than a third, comparatively, that made new 4-week new highs. So basically a month. So again, the breadth is just not very good. And here's what new 52-week highs versus lows looks like. You got 12 new highs and you got 13 new lows. So again, the breadth, not good. We'll kind of monitor this. I threw on a hedge this morning, just for this, as I'm kind of getting out of some positions. I actually got stopped out in 1 or 2 trades. Again, I show the losers and the winners, so that's what we're dealing with right now, right? Holding less positions, which is what my goal was for today, is just to kind of get out of a couple positions, because you're just dealing with an environment where you don't want to be, in my opinion, you don't want to be holding that many positions when the breadth is this bad. All right, guys, that's it for today's market recap. Have a great night. Hope to see you in the trading room tomorrow. Again, we start our pre-market session at 9:10 in the morning. We go over all the moves that are happening and a few setups that I'm interested in for the day. Have a great night, everybody.